This afternoon's Battletech post was going to pose the question, the most fearsome fighting vehicle in the inner sphere. As a mech warrior, you're making your way down that city. You've got a couple of signatures. You're on guard. You're ready. And as you round the corner, you come face to face with this type of vehicle on there. And even if you're a battle master, even if you're an assault mech, you realize you've got a couple of problems. That was going to be the question posed, but let's morph it into, and I guess we could still do a little checklist at the end. I'll let you guys sound off with what you think 1, 2, or 3 vehicles that just, if you face them point blank, you're in a world of hurt. I'm going with the short-range missile carrier. And this led into this idea, this duality, because in terms of the inner sphere, and I guess it's only fair, I'm going to make a note, we got to look at some clan stuff. We have some time. I have some time. I love the clans, Jade Falcon, bringing and restoring order to all these Desgra mech warriors in the inner sphere. Once the clan stuff drops, we've got to back up a little bit before that and start really exploring it, because once that Kickstarter hits and it's released into the wild, clans are going to be on fire. Clans are going to be everywhere. And for a lot of us, this is going to be a chance to re-experience the clans, re-imaged. I mean, an amazing time of Battletech. But that said, there are certain vehicles, the missile carrier, in my opinion, that short-range missile carrier, the SRM carrier, that is so potent. It's just this giant missile pod of short-range missiles, like just welded onto essentially a light truck on there. But it has such a duality in that it is extremes. It is extreme in that if you fire off those shots, if you get one turn, it's going to cripple a mech. If you get 2 turns, that's crazy. If you get 3 turns of fire, that's insane. Like, let's just roll up the game and call it at that. Yet at the same time, it attracts so much firepower from your opponent. It has to. It has to. You can't let that thing live on the table. But the balance in Battletech is literally like, okay, it has a lot of tonnage into the short-range missiles, and it's got that bite, it's got that potency on there. And if you have any internal things opened up on your mech, if you're into internals for crit seeking, that thing is just a crit seeking monster. I mean, we're still going to roll the dice and see what happens, but I'm probably going to score 1 or 2 or 3 crits. It's crazy. It's crazy. Light armor. It's not on a turret. Pretty slow moving for the tonnage on there. I mean, it's not super slow. It's not a behemoth, but it's certainly not really, really fast, and somewhat vulnerable. And being a short-range missile carrier, being a short-range unit, it is extremely vulnerable to motive hits. I mean, all vehicles, the bane are motive hits. So the duality is, how do we utilize this? We looked a little bit in the City Tech fighting videos. Those are posted up to my archive, the Battletech playlist, where I've covered the SRM carrier with that. And I mentioned that, hey, we're going to look at it from an open field point of view, literally open field. How can we utilize it? Because certainly in Battletech missions, there's a lot of ways to play it on there. Maybe you know ahead of time what the battle and mission is going to be, right? Maybe you have that intel, you've agreed with your opponent, hey, let's play a city fight, let's do this. Other times, you might build your list first. You have a mercenary fighting force, you build your list, you spend your battle value. I'm going to do the SRM carrier for the lulls. And then you find out you're like playing on grass mat 2, hex map 2, and you're like, what am I going to do? I find that when we go defensive, if we're not in a city fight, if we're not in a dense type environment, then absolutely you have to go defensive with the missile carrier. Honestly, I've tried it just to confirm it. I've tried it out of wish listing. I've tried it out of desire to get up there. But it's just the truth. It's going to get destroyed if you advance it forward. Even if you embed it in other units, it's going to get picked out because your opponent is going to see it on there. And they only need to slow it down and then finish it off on their own time. But going defensive, it becomes beast. It does. And the battle value, it doesn't make up its battle value in terms of damage output that it pushes out. It makes up its battle value as a force magnifier. So I'm going to give you an example of the setup that I use, and then you'll fill in your own mechs and kind of the own thing that you want to play. I take longbows, I take archers. If I have a lot of battle value, I'll take a long-range missile carrier. I build a big fire base. Sometimes also I'll take a pair of Jaeger mechs. The longbows are probably more efficient. The archer's definitely more efficient for the drop in missiles that you lose, but what you gain in armor and hands, I would argue the archer is better, but I like the longbow on there. And on a side note, I thought it was pretty proficient with Battletech. I think I am on there. You give me a Battletech quiz, I could do like 80% on there. Yeah, there's a lot of lore that I still don't know or I forgot. But being a missile enthusiast, where have I been and how did I not know about the Yeoman on there? 2 giant missile pods and a pair of legs. That's essentially it. We're just jacking up the missiles. We're not even going to try and give you something for close-in defense work. Like, we're not even going to give you a brace of medium lasers in case something slips by. We're not even going to give you, the assault mech, the heavy mech, last line of defense, small laser in the head for some reason. Like, no, we're not even going to bother with that. And where has this mech been? I wasn't even aware of it. So we have to analyze that and ask some questions on that. So building this defensive fire base, we've talked about a blocking unit. I also pushed that up, I believe about a week ago, to the channel. Something is going to try and get close to my fire base, and by something it could be a bunch of units, it could be some hovercraft, it could be some incoming mechs. Something is going to get up there, other than just long range. You're never going to beat me at long range, because I'll take a couple of hits, but 4, 5, 6, 7 game turns of pumping out missiles, like that's not going to work for you. You need to get close, essentially, to what I think of as medium range. Medium lasers being fired at medium range, a bunch of them, and some PPCs and large lasers. That's going to put enough dice momentum down on the table that it's really going to hurt me. It's going to really push it out there. So with that, you're going to approach close. If I put as a blocking unit a short-range missile carrier on there, and I could find, even on the hex maps, which are pretty balanced, I could find some trees to hide behind. I could find some hills to hide behind. There's going to be enough level 2 stuff there that I can completely hide behind. When you come close enough to get to medium range, I'm going to hit a punch. I'm going to get a punch in there with that short-range missile carrier. But it's not enough. Again, so it's defensive, but it's not enough. I'm not going to park my 2 longbows and all my assets there and put down 2 short-range missile carriers. You will still destroy them and overwhelm them. I still need another blocking unit. I guess it's a counter unit. Something like a demolisher, something like a T-bolt. So when you come close, I'm going to hit you with the missiles, in theory. We're going to open you up with the T-bolt or the demolisher, and then once your 2 internals, that little, actually it's pretty big, the size scale, but that little mech size short-range missile carrier is going to come forward, and it's going to light off everything on you. A force multiplier, because it's a quicker way to remove an opposing unit. So the longbows, when you come to engage me, when you come to close to my fire base, the longbows have to switch from shooting at something on the table, direct or indirect. They have to switch to now laying down some fire on whatever's incoming. So this way it's weakened. The longer it takes me to destroy your incoming units, that means those longbows are not firing indirect at other targets that might be out of sight, or as the other parts of my lance are advancing, they're not supported. I want to get you off the table as quickly as I can. The SRM carrier coming forward will get you off the table as quick as I can. And we walk this fine line, and it is a fine line. I have to be careful. You don't want to have half your battle value tied up in blockers and SRM carriers sitting in the back, and they're just hanging out smoking stim sticks. Like, no, absolutely not on there. It's kind of crazy. Everyone in Battletech still smokes. I guess it's like the 80s, right? So looking at that from that perspective, if I make it so overpowering, my opponent might ignore it. They might say, look, maybe I'll try and take those missiles indirectly for 1 or 2 or 3 rounds, turns. Let's see. I know, is that the right decision? I don't know. I guess it depends on the dice and the mission. But if you make your fire base so hardened and you have blocking units and you have a counter unit, in this case, the short-range missile carrier, that is That's going to prevent them from possibly coming in. The downside to that, right, if I have it so packed up and they ignore it, now this is the 80-20 rule. We pushed that up yesterday to the channel. That means as I have so much of my battle value hanging out in the back, as I advance my forces forward for mission objectives and to engage the opponent, they're going to have like 80% of their forces going against my 20, and just on the sheer weight of battle value, they're going to crush me. So we have to be careful. But that complements the missile carrier. Primarily, yes, it's an offensive attack, get in there, light stuff up, blow stuff up, absolutely crazy. Like, let me see that tech sheet, because is it really shooting that many missiles? It's not that I don't believe you, but that's insane. That's how many missiles it shoots. And it's going to do it next turn and next turn, and it's just going to keep going on there. Versus sometimes, based on the mission or the map, here you are. You know, this is where we're at, and I'm not going to charge forward. How do we play it defensively?